Today I am going to deliver a lecture on alternation of generation in plants. So what is alternation of generation? First we have to know that what is generation. So plant basically undergoes sexual and asexual reproduction, in which two types of generation occurs, that is sporophytic and gametophytic. This sporophytic stage is in 2n, where number of chromosome is diploid, and the gametophytic stage where the number of chromosome is haploid. So the alternation between these two generations, from haploid to diploid or diploid to haploid, is known as alternation of generation. So today we are going to see how this alternation of generation occurs between plants. So this is a plant cycle or cell cycle for explaining the process of alternation and generation. Basically in plants we know that fertilization occurs between two gametes, that is male and female gametes. Due to the fusion of male and female gamete, a number of chromosomes become diploid. That structure is known as zygote. So when sperm and egg fuse, they form zygote, which is in diploid state. ठीक है, उसके बाद then this diploid structured zygote convert into two different plants, that is male and female. If it converts into male, then it is known as microsporophyte, and if it converts into female, then it is known as megasporophyte. And these two structures are basically multicellular. These two structures of male and female sporophyte, where formation of spores basically originate, that is known as sporangia. So the structure of male sporangia is known as microsporophyte, and the female sporangia is known as megasporophyte. Then after the fusion of gametes, the sporangia undergoes meiotic division, and due to meiotic division they produce spores from sporophytes. If the megaspores are formed from megasporophyte, and the male spores are formed from microsporophyte. After the formation of these spores, then another division occurs, that is known as mitotic division, where the number of chromosomes may be equal and haploid in nature. So till now the stage which has completed into formation of spores through after fusion is in the diploid state, or we can say it is a sporophytic stage. Now after the meiotic microspore formation, when mitotic division occurs, then the number of chromosome becomes haploid. So this stage is gametophytic and haploid. So from male sporangia, after mitotic division, microgametophyte formation occurs. After the mitotic division, the microspore convert into microgametophyte. If we are talking about male reproductive organ, microsporangia, which is known as antheridium in case of plants. Reproductive organ, it is known as archegonia. So the formation of microgametophyte and megagametophyte from the microspores and megaspores are due to mitotic divisions. After these, there is a formation of male reproductive organ, which is sperm, and the female reproductive organ, which is egg. So now what happens next? The sperm and egg will fuse to form zygote. Then from microspore or megaspore generation to fusion, this state is in haploid form. So this stage is gametophytic stage. So there is a conversion between haploid to diploid and to diploid to haploid. This is known as alternation of generation, which occurs mainly in plants. It can be comparable in animals with the sense of sexual reproduction, but in case of plants, sexual and asexual both reproduction takes place, where alternation of generation takes place from haploid to diploid or sporophytic to gametophytic state. Now let's take an example of plants, that bryophytes. So in bryophytes we are talking about ferns. Ferns are basically bryophytes. So in case of ferns, the dominant generation plants. First, we have to know what is dominant generation plants. There are basically we have talking about that there are two generation, gametophytic and sporophytic. So if the plant have dominant generation in haploid state, then the main plant body is gametophyte, which occurs mainly in bryophytes or ferns. So if the plant generation is non-dominant or recessive, which is in diploid state, then the main plant will be sporophyte. For example, tracheophytes. So we are talking about dominant generation plant and non-dominant generation plants. So the dominant generation plants grow larger and live longer because the non-dominating plants are in diploid state. Okay, that is the conversion of from sporophytic to gametophytic and gametophytic to sporophytic. I have told about the megasporophyte and microsporophyte, that this sporangia is the reproductive organ through which the male and female gametes will reproduce. Okay, then the gametangia. This part is gametangia, this part is sporangia. Here the spores formation will take place, and from here gametangia, the gametes formation will take place. So this alternation, gametes formation and fusion, then this spore formation is a complete cycle which takes place in plants. So the whole process of alternation of generation takes place, and in this whole process or in plant cycle there are 4 processes that takes place, which is germination, pollination, fertilization and dispersal. So what is germination? Germination is basically the formation of plant from a seed is known as germination, and after that pollination, the pollen will transferred from one plant to another through wind or insects, and then they will fuse to the ovary, passing through the stigma and fuse further, where pollen and egg will fuse and form zygote. That process is known as fertilization. Okay? And after fertilization, that zygote will convert into seed, seed will convert into fruit, and okay. So now the after the seed formation, the dispersal of seed will take place. The seed dispersal be from one plant to another through air or by wind or by insects and also by animals. Seed dispersal can also not by seeds, insects, but by animals, because the pollen were transferred by air and insects, but seeds were transferred by animals and air. So this whole process of formation of gametes and spores is known as alternation of generation, where number of chromosomes vary from N to 2N. So I end my lecture with this. Thank you very much.